Now, this is another example of taking advantage of light that I'm not controlling. This is actually lit by a street lamp. And I was looking out the window with my camera in my hands and looking down at this scene, and there was no one around. It's about midnight or 1 a.m. I had just finished attending a book signing by a friend of mine. And I was looking at it, and I thought, well, they're very nice shapes and geometry, and the lighting is really interesting, but there's nothing happening here. And it's very static. People came out of an event, they came out of a doorway, and they started walking through the scene. I said to myself, the shutter speed's too fast. They're going to be frozen, so it'll still be static. So I brought the shutter speed down to the point where I knew that they would be blurry and show lots of movement, and I braced the camera in the corner of the window. And I really like the way this image works with the diagonals. All the diagonals are pointing in the direction the people are walking. And it's got a sense of agelessness to it, because there's nothing in here that sets the time. This could have been taken 50 years ago or 5 days ago. There's nothing about clothing, because you can't really see the people as much as you can sense their movement through the photo. And then the bicycle and the old-fashioned iron grating and all of these things work together. And again, it's shadow and light. The lighted areas are framed by the shadows and vice versa. And the people are more shadows than it is really a portrait of them. And so this is, again, one of my favorite images, just because it's got that uniqueness, those different unique things to it, that you couldn't really stage this. You had to be looking out the window and thinking about what could happen. And then when something good happens, you have to be ready with the camera. And here we are.
I like the concept of the people being shadows, and not that they are figures so much as compositional elements in the picture. It's again a dealing of the abstract created by shadow and light. It is such a study in shadow and light, to the point that I could almost believe that those white lines were painted purposely just for this picture. The ethereal shadows behind, to the right of the figure, the deeper shadows to the left. There is, again, imbalance in this picture that gives it a great sense of energy that, you're right, David, without the figures, it would have been an interesting abstract, but not as fascinating as this is. The nature of shadow and light, as with the reflection picture, does create our world and creates how we see the world. We all know photography literally means painting with light. I would say it's painting with light and shadow, of course. This is very painterly in that concept. Again, you instinctively did your...
It wasn't that bad.
No, I'm sure one glass of champagne wasn't that bad, but I like being able to tease you about it. Your mind automatically went to the sense of thirds in your composition, so that you have 2/3 in light, comparative light, and about 1/3 in shadow. You have the figure literally at the power point, the 1/3 power point. But it was that you saw it, you controlled the technology, you knew what to do with your technology, so that you could just be an artist at that moment at midnight. In what city?
New York.
New York City, of course. But you live in California. I couldn't take that for granted.
No, I grew up in New York.
Shadows are remarkable, and they do sculpt our world, very definitely.